Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here at 3 Tier, and welcome to another episode of the People's Questions, where I answer all the questions that you guys have sent me over the past week. I've had a really busy week in terms of the amount of videos I've uploaded since the last episode of People's Questions, and unfortunately, we got a much shorter episode this time around. But that's not your guys' fault, because there was actually just a lot of questions that I was able to answer in the comment section for the last video. So if you don't hear your comments, your questions here, just check the comment section, but chances are you might have gotten a notification that I commented to your question. But you know, I'd say 7 questions isn't all that bad. But jumping right into the first question, coming from Silver Shadow 2099, you want to know, who do I think would win in a team battle between Jason and Jaina Solo versus Anakin and Obi-Wan? That's a tough one. I'm kind of leaning more towards Jason and Jaina, simply due to the fact that if they did everything right, I think the weak link in either of these teams is I think Anakin is probably the weak link of Obi-Wan and Anakin's team, simply because he's so aggressive, he overextends himself, and he would be more inclined to make mistakes, while Obi-Wan is so defensive. So I think Jason and Jaina would work very hard to separate the two. I think that Jaina would take on Anakin. Jason would just simply need to just keep Obi-Wan occupied, which I think he could do. And then once Jaina had finished dispatching Anakin, then the two of them would double team Obi-Wan, and even with his, mastery of Surisu, he would just be worn down, and especially when it comes to their force powers, I think they would overwhelm him in that department. So I do think that Jaina and Jason Solo would probably be able to take down Anakin and Obi-Wan, but it would be a really tough fight. The next question comes from the Immortal Super Being, and you want to know, who do I think would win this fight or matchup, and why? Zeus from God of War 3 versus Boulder from God of War 4. This is hard, because technically, you can't kill Zeus. I mean, when you really look at what it took to kill Zeus, Boulder can't really do that. I mean, he's not, in terms of raw destructive power, he's not anywhere near as powerful as someone like Zeus. But because Boulder is cursed of immortality, I'm not sure Zeus could really kill him. So it's kind of a situation where I think Zeus could, beat the crap out of Boulder all day, but he could never permanently keep him down. So I'm leaning more towards Zeus, simply because he could, kill him over and over again. He would just keep coming back, and just Boulder would just not be able to put enough offense to really do anything that would really cause any major problems for Zeus. Next question comes from Venom Rules All. You want to know, how would MCU Captain America fare against either Nemesis or Wesker? I think he would... I think he could handle himself against both those guys. I mean, Nemesis, he's just pure, raw, just brute strength. And I think that Captain America could deal with something like that. And in terms of Wesker, I certainly think that, Steve Rogers is a much better combatant than someone like... Wesker. And although Wesker has speed, he's been able to be caught off guard by just normal folks that were just very, very skilled combatants. And, Steve Rogers is way ahead of someone like a Chris or a Jill. So, yeah, I'm fairly certain that Captain America could dispatch both those guys. Next question comes from All-Star GAMBRPUNK. You want to know, in terms of looks, what is my favorite to least favorite Devil Trigger for Dante? Okay, I'm just going to stick with his base, like the standard games. If I could list them from least to favored, my least favorite would be his Devil Trigger and Devil May Cry 1. I just thought it was a little bit too plain. I'm not talking about his Sparta form, his individual base form. Then I would go with probably Devil May Cry 3, then Devil May Cry 4. I would say my favorite I think my favorite Devil Trigger of his is definitely Devil May Cry 2. Simply because it's the most powerful, and it's the only one where it actually gives him, wings. I mean, technically, Devil May Cry 1's Devil Trigger has wings, but they're not nearly as cool. And the guy has, like, Gatling guns, like, attached to his palms in his Devil May Cry 2 Devil Trigger. So I just think that's awesome. Next question comes from a Lucerna. You want to know, what version of Starkiller is my favorite? Jedi Starkiller or Sith Starkiller? Definitely Jedi Starkiller. Sith Starkiller just looks like a prototype, underwhelming version of Darth Vader. I mean, they even had a lot of the same cues. But I absolutely did like his Jedi robes that he had at the end of The Force Unleashed 1. So yeah, definitely would go with Jedi Starkiller. Next question comes from JBat. You want to know, do I think that Michael Myers will ever get his own Halloween video game? You know, with the success of the Friday the 13th game, I'm not sure you could do that with Michael Myers. Michael Myers is significantly less powerful and less interesting than Jason Voorhees, so it would be too similar, but I don't think it would be nearly as fun as playing as Jason. I mean, I think that in terms of popularity, Jason easily trumps Michael Myers. And last question of the episode comes from the Hunter Bros, but only with one question. And you want to know, is there a character from a game that people keep asking for a versus matchup and you don't understand why? I can't think of a particular character, but I generally do get a lot of requests to do characters that I don't know anything about, and that can get a little bit annoying because I'd like to kind of stay in my comfort zone and use characters that I know very well. In only recent memory, I've only tried using a character that I didn't know anything about once, and that was Steiner from Final Fantasy IX, who I even say at the beginning of that video, I went into this matchup completely blind without knowing anything about this character because I had never played Final Fantasy IX up until I needed to do research for that game. But I think one matchup that I do get a lot of requests for in particular is I do get many requests to use Shishomaru or Inuyasha, but you know, for obvious reasons I can't use those characters. But I would say that's probably the closest character. But I understand why they would like to see that character, because he's a badass character, and I would even say he's my favorite Inuyasha character. And there's so many parallels that he and Inuyasha have with Dante and Virgil that a matchup with those two groups of characters would be awesome to see. It's just I'm not sure I would be able to pull that off. But I would say that's the closest character that I can think of that kind of come closer to your question. And with that, those are all the questions that you guys have sent me for this week. I'd like to thank all of you guys for sending your questions. Again, if you didn't hear your question, just check the comment section. But if you do have a question you would like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below. But make sure you get them into me for next Wednesday before filming the next episode. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.